Okay, children. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, so I'm replacing Mike today. Mike is sick today. He's getting better. So the first thing is to conduct puja. So please say Namo Tassa 3 times to observe 5 precepts. I want someone to repeat after me. It's good. Maybe someone of you can unmute your mic. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Panati pata viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinādāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kāmisu miccāchāra viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvāda viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Suramiraya majjapama dattana viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now we're going to recite stanzas to offer all the offerings we all have placed in front of the Buddha statue in our temple, at your homes, and elsewhere. So we're going to be contemplating on the great qualities. There are 9 great qualities of the Buddha: Arahang, Samma Sambuddha, Vijjacharana Sampanna, Sugata, Lokavidu, Anuttaro Purusha Dhammasarati, Sattha Deva Manusana, Buddho Bhagava. So these are the 9 great qualities that we um, usually reflect while we reciting Itipiso Bhagava. So we're going to be contemplating on them while reciting the stanzas. So let's pay homage to the Buddha one more time, 3 more times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho binjacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasarati sattha deva manussanang buddho bhagavati. So that is veneration to the Buddha, veneration to the Dhamma. Swakhato bhagavata dhammo sandintiko akaliko ehi passiko opanaiko pachattang veditambu vinyohiti. Veneration to the Sangha. Supatipanno bhagavatu savaka sangho Ujupatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Nyayapatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Samiti Patipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Yadidang Chattari Purisa Yugani Atta Purisa Pungala Esa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakhineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anuttarang Punyaketang Lokasati. Offering candles. Ganasarappadittena Deepena Tamadang Sina Tilokadipang Sambundhang Pujayami Tamunudang. Offering incense. Gandha sangbhara yuttena dhupena hang sugandhina pujaye pujaniyantang puja bhajana muntamang. Offering flowers. Vanna gandha gunopetang etang kusuma santating pujayami munindasya siripada saruruhe. Pujemi buddhang kusumena nina punyena mitena cha hotu mokkhaṃ pubbhaṃ milayati yatha idammi kayo tatayati vinasa bhavaṃ. Offering medicinal drinks including water. Adivase tuno bhante paniyang parikampitang anukampang upadaya patiganhatu muntamang. Adivase tuno bhante gilana pachayang imang anukampang upadaya patiganhatu muntamang. Adivase tuno bhante besajjang parikampitang anukampang upadaya patiganhatu muttamang. Veneration of all the pagodas of the Buddha's relics and the Bodhi tree. Vandami chetiyang sambang sabbadhani supatintitang saririka dhatu mahabodhing buddharupang sakalang sada yasya mule nisinnova sabbari vichayang aka patto sabbanyutang satta vanditang bodhipadipang. Apologizing from the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha for any mistakes we may have done by ways of actions, speech, and thoughts. Kayena vacha chintena pamadena maya katang achayang kamami bhanti bhuri panya tathagata. Kayena vacha chintena pamadena maya katang achayang kamami dhamma sandittika akalika. Kayena vacha chintena pamadena maya katang achayang kamami sangha supatipanne anuttara. Finally, we have an aspiration. We always make a wish. This wish is about getting to know wise people and also continue our association with those wise beings until we attain the Nibbana, somewhere in the samsara. Maybe this life, maybe somewhere. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pantiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, now it's time for the meditation. So please keep to your postures. Keep your back, head, and neck straight. And put your right palm on the left palm. You may close your eyes. We're going to practice the meditation on metta, loving kindness meditation. In this meditation, as we already know, we trying to understand how much we spread loving kindness to us, how much we love ourselves, so that we can spread the same amount or maybe more to other people, so that we understand the preciousness of everyone's life, not only my life, not only your life. So first we start from ourselves. Please contemplate on these aspects of loving kindness meditation. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always meet with success. May I also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. Now we are taking the same loving kindness to other people now. May my parents, family members, teachers, relatives, friends, all indifferent persons, enemies, and all living beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always meet with success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now it's time to share all the good karmas with the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us and with the deities and the nagas. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idammi ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Ittavata cha ammihi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata cha ammihi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata cha ammihi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahintika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu lokasasanang. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahintika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu desanang. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahintika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu mang paranti. Okay. Now we have come to the event where you respect the monks. So I think Ovini can help everyone to recite those stanzas, worshiping the monks.
Silavantam gunavantam punyakirtam anuttaram dullevena mayalatam buddhaputam namamaham. Silavantam gunavantam punyakirtam anuttaram dullevena mayalatam buddhaputam namamaham. Silavantam gunavantam punyakirtam anuttaram dullevena mayalatam buddhaputam namamaham.
And then we're moving on to venerating parents, right? So first we're going to be venerating mother and then father. So you can approach your parents if they are nearby, otherwise you can stay with me. Veneration of mother. Dasa mase uri katva posesi buddhi karanang ayudighang vassa satang matupadang namamahang. Dasamasayak duk binda ma hedu ammi le kirikara pova ma dedikala ammi nivase budun yai budu himi desu ammi oba payuga vandimi ma adara ammi. Then we move on to the veneration of father. Buddhikaru alingitva chumbitva piya puttakang raja majjang supatintang pitupadang namamahang. Neti beri kamak mata nodැනෙන නියායෙනි දුක් කරදර මැදින් මා හැදු දයාවෙනි. හොඳ දරුවෙකු වෙන්න මට දුන් ඔවා මිනි ඔබ පායුග වඳිමි මා ආදර පියාණෙනි. Children, please come back to your seats. Okay. Now I'm going to be blessing you with some stanzas. Abhivadana silissa niccang baddha prachayino chattaro dhamma vaddhanti ayuvanno sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminati saminjatu. Okay, now let's get ready for the singing of Dhamma school song. Please rise, and then we can sing the Dhamma school song. Thank you. Okay, children, today we're gonna be doing a lesson called let me see how it is really called. Tiracchānayoni, animal. So I would call it becoming animal, tiracchāna, and karma and the animal realm, tiracchānayoni and Theravada Buddhism. If you could see the syllabus, it's going to be December 20, animals, tiracchāna, the animal realm, and the pages that are recommended, range from 233 and 241. And I think this is going to be a very interesting topic. So can everyone turn the page to this number? Okay, chapter 2, the animal realm, tiracchāna. Before I move on to the subject, I think I want to tell you that in the Buddhist teachings, there are 31 places where beings are supposed to be reborn, including us, right? And we know 4 hells, and then human world, and then 6 heavens, and 16 what do you call rupa, which are material Brahma worlds, and then 4 immaterial Brahma worlds. So that's how it makes up the 31 planes of existence. So if we take a look at of the animal realm, this is the only place where we can see so much diversity. I mean, in terms of life, in terms of food, in terms of differences, so many manifestations. So I would say that getting to know what uh, you know the animal kingdom, animal realm, you know, uh, in different sense, in different perspectives and different understandings, we will be able to understand what they really experience, whether they have skillful or unskillful, I mean, kusala or kusala thoughts going on, whether they have a chance, opportunity to be able to reborn in some other places. So there are a lot of things to discuss. And about the Jataka stories, we know that the Bodhisattva, the past lives of the Buddha, he was reborn in many, animal lives. So we can discuss all that. So first, may I suggest someone to read? I would ask Dilak, can you read the first paragraphs in here? In
Can you please
Cosmology?
tell me what page it is again?
It's gonna be 233.
Okay, sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna get to that
Yeah,
page.
sure.
233, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perfect. Chapter 2, the animal realm. In Buddhist cosmology, animals are considered a separate gati or destination of rebirth. The most common term in Pali for animal is tiracchāna, which derives from tiraccha,
We call
across
it tiracchāna.
tiracchāna,
Yeah.
which derives from tiraccha, a cross oblique conveying the idea that animals go about on all four with their spines horizontal to the ground. The word tiracchāna is sometimes used as an adjective meaning debased or lowly. In such compounds, tiracchāna
Tiracchāna kata.
kata, idle chatter, animal talk, or tiracchāna
Tiracchāna vijaya.
vijaya, low knowledge, referring to such art as astrology, palmistry, etc. In the Vinaya rule for forbidding the killing of animals, tiracchāna is defined as equivalent to panya, which means breathing thing. The animal realm is often referred to collectively as a tiracchānayoni, the animal womb.
Okay. Okay. So children, now in the first paragraph we can see the Pali word for the animal. So it's called tiracchāna. Okay. So bit difficult to pronounce for you, but tiracchāna means animal. But the word has a good meaning. Let's take a look at the word. Tiracchāna basically means a cross. Or tiraccha actually. Tiraccha basically means across obliquely, and tiracchāna is animal. So basically, it means uh, you know uh, the way how an animal goes about. So the normally animals go about on all fours with their spines horizontal to the ground. So that's how the Pali word called tiracchāna has been given to animal. And there are animals, who have 2 feet, but mostly this is about animals who have 4 feet. So that's why it's been taken as animals go about on all fours with their spines horizontal to the ground. And also in other places in the Tripitaka, the Pali Canon, we know the word tiracchāna has been added to other contexts. Now, it's not about animals, it's about something else. So if you can take a look at this one, tiracchāna kata, idle chatter. So if people talk, simply to spend time, right? Idle chatting, right? So that is also taken as a tiracchāna type of talk. It's not to insult animals, but kind of a low debased talk. So if people just talk merely to spend time, right? Uh, so that is also considered as a tiracchāna type, animal type talk, just to spend. Because if you are a human, you got to talk about something meaningful, something valuable, something timely, right? So if you are not talking that kind of a talk, then you fall into tiracchāna talk, which means animal kind of a talk. So you are simply wasting your time. That's why the word called tiracchāna is added to other places like tiracchāna kata, idle chatter. I would say idle chatting too. Tiracchāna vijaya, which means low knowledge. So Buddha considered some of the I would say knowledges. Some of the sciences are like they are kind of like low kind of a knowledge compared to the Four Noble Truths, and he's not insulting them, but compared to the Four Noble Truths, like knowledges such as uh, astrology and palmistry, they are treated as low knowledge because Four Noble Truth is much worthier, much beneficial to people if they learn. Uh, Perhaps you might have seen some people, so-called people, who might say they are Buddhists, but they still want to try on palmistry and astrology. But in the Buddhist teachings, Buddha never encourage such knowledges to be important, but they are important in their own ways. But in the Buddhist teachings, Buddha says knowledge is understanding the Four Noble Truths, and you're attaining Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami. That should be the knowledge. So compared to that knowledge, knowledges about palmistry, astrology become futile. And there are Vinaya rules. What is Vinaya? Vinaya means a disciplinary rule for the monks, uh, forbidding the killing of animals. Now, actually, we know in the precepts, we are not supposed to kill any being, right? So I don't know why it is separately taken as forbidding animals. Maybe there is an emphasis: do not kill even the animals, right? So uh, So see here in the Vinaya rule forbidding the killing of animals, tiracchāna is defined as equivalent to pana, breathing things. So if there is any breathing, like a life, there's any life, then we all have to uh, be concerned about not taking that life, because that is a part of panatipata. Tiracchānayoni. So the word called yoni means the womb. Now, yoni means the womb. Now, we know another Pali word in the Buddhist teachings where people use oftentimes, yoniso manasikara. You are having attention uh, in all aspects. When you have yoniso manasikara, you can meditate well, right? You can practice vipassana. So here, yoni means womb. So animal womb. So if someone is reborn in an tiracchānayoni, which means animal womb, uh, be that a bird, be that a lion, be that a snake, they all are called tiracchānayoni. So maybe I ask Obini to read the next paragraph.
The tiracchānayoni is said to be the most diverse of the five gati. In commentary to the Vinaya rules cited above, when an example is needed for the smallest and most inconsequential animal, bedbug eggs are mentioned. On the other end of the scale, the largest animals are all of the giant sea monsters, which can be as big as 1,000 yojana from head to tail. A birth is an animal considered one of the unfortunate ones, better than nidya, but worse than becoming a pitta. The particular suffering of the animals is described to being subject to capture in nets and traps, or being forced to pull carts by use of whip or goad. Immoral behavior in general leads to rebirth as an animal, but certain actions are specifically cited, including the holding of false views, crucially, breaking precepts and
Concealing
concealing
offenses.
offenses. A person who sneaks around to commit misdeeds is said to be subject to rebirth, and creeping animals such as snake, scorpion, centipede, mongoose, cat, mouse, or owl.
Okay, so before I jump into this part of the discussion, I would say we are not insulting uh, animals. We are not supposed to insult anyone, regardless of any reason. But we know there are different sufferings, right? When you are a human, you have a different suffering. When you are a deva, you have a different suffering, because when devas get to know that they're gonna die one day in heavens, they're gonna be born somewhere else, so they are suffering. But it, compared to our suffering, it could be not that solid. But when you take a look at of animals, uh, they get, what we understand from the text is that they suffer a lot. So we will understand how that suffering, is like in the text. So in here, what we have to understand is tiracchānayoni, animal realm. Uh, so it is the most diverse kind of, realm, as a destination of rebirth, right? As I think this is what I told at the beginning. So it's the most diversified place. Now, humans, you may see not that many varieties compared to animals, right? Because we know that there are different humans, and when some humans are reborn in some countries, some places, we can see a difference. But when you see animals, so that manifestation, and those differences are many. So that's why it is said that there is no other place we can see a lot of differences other than this animal realm. And now we'll see how it is said. uh, Very smallest to the most very smallest and most inconsequential animal, bedbug eggs. So in Pali we call Mangula Bijaka. In Pali we call Mangula Bijaka. We know that they are very tiny, smallest kind of like creatures, right? And there are also some animals we know they are called as giant sea monsters. They are big as 1,000 yojanas. So what is this yojana measurement? In the Pali text, we understand yojana uh, is a measurement. Now we know the miles. At that time, even in Sri Lanka, we know that we've been using miles for some time until we get used to kilometers. So they say that uh, in Pali they call 4 miles equivalent to uh, one, what do you call that in Pali, Gava. And then so 4 of them equal to yojana. So which means it's a measurement at that time. So there are big creatures such as 1 yojana big, right? At the same time, we see very tiny creatures. In one sutta, there was one Brahmin came to see the Buddha and then kind of criticized the Buddha. You know the reason why he criticized the Brahmin? I heard you had told somewhere that if people want to offer dana, you should only offer either to you or your monks, the Buddhist monks. So, and then he was, criticizing this way. And the Buddha said, no, I have never said that. I never said that uh, if you want to offer something, you should only offer to me, or you should think me in the first place. And then Buddha went on to say the simplest version of his dana. He said, if someone, after eating, if someone throws, or now in today's world, you wash your plates like in a sink, right? And then when you wash your plate, if you think if there are any invisible creatures, what are those kinds of creatures? We call them, Tilaka, do you know the kind of the name of those tiny creatures that you can see? Mm,
Like
uh,
planktons and like
I'm
bacteria and
sorry,
stuff.
what's that?
Bacteria and stuff that like stay
Oh,
on land.
bacteria and stuff, yeah. And then if you think that, of course, there are bacteria, right? Even we have bacteria inside of our bodies. If there is any tiny creature that I can see, but if there are, in case there are, may they survive with the leftover, with with the leftover uh, that come out of the washing of my plate. That is the simplest. That is the starting minimum place of offering dana. So that means Buddha clearly said that we have to think about dana in many places, not just coming to a temple and offer dana to the monk. You have to think about if there are any other ways like washing your plates and throwing at that time, right? So we can think about, we can consider washing our plates and cups to be the minimum place of initiating our dana thoughts. So in that case there are tiny, very tiny creatures. And also in the sea we know there are very gigantic animals, right? In this case they say about what do they call here, um, they call giant sea monsters, right? Sometimes we never see, maybe some scientists may have not found them too, but there are these big animals too, who are very long. But you know, this is interesting. A bird as an animal is considered one of the unfortunate ones, better than niraya, but worse than becoming a peta. Now, niraya is another place, right? Niraya means where people suffer a lot. But becoming an animal is less painful than being reborn in an apaya, right? In a hell. But becoming an animal, I don't think about being reborn as an animal, right? But compared to the suffering, being born as an animal is much better than being born as a person in the hell. But worse than becoming a Petra. So Petra is like a ghost. Ghost is a little better than being an animal. The ghosts. So ghosts have little more comforts than being an animal. So you can see the difference. And then there are a lot of sufferings, right? And then it talks about the causes of why some beings are reborn as animals. So let's see the causes. The first thing is holding or having micchaditi, wrong view. What is this wrong view? Why we became humans? Because we had, in our past life, we had sammaditi, right view. Now, even if you do a lot of good karma, but if you don't have your right view, what is right view? I need to purify my thoughts. I need to purify my actions. I need to purify my speech, and I'm doing all that to purify my defiled thoughts, mental, uh, impurities, you know, greed, hatred, delusion. If people don't have this as their philosophical emphasis in their spirituality, when they go to a temple, when they offer something, when they practice meditation, when they do any other good activity, but if they don't have this one objective in their mind, attaining nibbana one day by overcoming all the defilements, then that means they don't have right view. The right view is the most important thing. Even you are not attained as an arahant, but if you have right view, you will never be reborn in an animal realm, or in a realm like lowly realms, right? So the most important thing is that to keep right view. If people don't have right view, then they have a better chance of being reborn as an animal. And there are other small causes too: breaking precepts, concealing offenses. What is it? You break a precept, and then you are not letting someone know, I mean, maybe a monk, maybe a nun, maybe someone who is spiritual, then you sort of like not remorseful about what you did. Okay. A person who sneaks around to commit misdeeds is said to be subject to rebirth as a creeping animal such as a snake, scorpion, centipede, mongoose, cat, mouse. Oh, we never like to be reborn as animals. These animal kinds are really suffering a lot, right? Anyways, so I think depending on the time, I would like to summarize, not reading everything, so that we can have a break at 3:15, maybe 5 to 10 minutes break, and then we're gonna do the next part after that. Okay. So next is Oinu. Can you read the next, maybe the whole page? Would be nice. I can summarize easily.
Okay. The Bala Pandita Sutta attributes birth in the animal world to greediness for flavors, prasado, and to the doing of evil deeds. The text especially mentions Brahmins who eagerly chase after offerings, being reborn as those animals who chase after the flavor of dung, cocks, pig, dogs, and jackals. The sutta goes on to elaborate on the suffering endured by the tiracchānayoni.
Tiracchānayoni.
tiracchānayoni. There are bhikkhus living beings arisen among the animals who live in darkness, grow old in darkness, and die in darkness. These include moths, maggots, and worms, among others. Those fools who are greedy for flavors and commit evil deeds here, when their time comes and their body breaks up after that, arise in companionship with the beings that live in darkness. There are animals that live in water, grow old in water, and die in water. These include fish, turtles, and crocodiles. These are animals that live in filth, grow old in filth, and die in filth. They live in rotten fish, stinking corpses, rotten food, cesspools, and sewers. Those fools who are greedy for flavors and commit evil deeds here, when their time comes, the body breaks up after death, arise in companionship with those beings that live in filth. I could speak in very many ways, bhikkhus, about the sufferings in the tiracchānayoni. It is not easy to find parable to express it. So great is the suffering of the tiracchānayoni. Suppose, bhikkhus, that a person was to throw a yoke with a single hole in the great ocean. It was carried about in all directions by the winds. Suppose there was a blind tortoise that emerged from the ocean every 100 years. What do you think, bhikkhus? Would the tortoise put his neck through the hole in the yoke? He might, Bhante, after some very long period of time. Sooner, bhikkhus, would that blind turtle put his neck through the yoke than would a fool escape back into the human realm after having fallen into a lower realm. Why is that? Because there is no dharma faring, no peace, no doing of good deeds or making merit. There is only mutual devouring there. There is strong that consume the weak.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. What we can understand from this page is that we know that there's a sutta called Balapani Sutta. MN means Majjhima Nikaya. In this sutta, we understand who normally take rebirth in animal realm. So it clearly says that the Brahmins, Brahmins were priestly class at that time who exploited, people's money, and then, um, I wouldn't say all the Brahmins, but most of them, they are kind of a uh, high class in India, in the society. So they kind of exploit, take a lot of advantages from people. So they chase after offerings, of people, donors, and those beings, uh, uh, you know, uh, not even they just, chase after offerings. But they also chase after the flavors of dung, cocks, pigs, dogs, jackals, and see what normally happened to them. Uh, they were reborn as animals, moths, maggots, worms, and others. So these animals sometimes they live in water, and you can see the names of these animals: fish, turtles, and crocodiles. So, and Buddha shares with us a very good simile. Now, a lot of people who describe this simile about the tortoise, they describe it wrongly. They say, um, you know, how can I say, the probability for a man, for a human to be reborn as a human is like a blind tortoise who is coming every 100 years out of the water, but this blind tortoise, only single one-eyed blind tortoise, come out of the ocean, and soon soon after he came out of the water, there's one yolk that goes through the eye that he can see, and he can see outside of the ocean. So this simile is being misunderstood by many because they're using it for the humans. My understanding is, if you are a human, you have a better chance of being reborn as a human. Why is it? Why is it? Because you associate humans, you have the human perspective, you like humans, and when you learn Dhamma, you like wise individuals too. But when it comes to animals, it's a challenge because they're always with other animals, and we can see in a few more pages ahead that they don't they the thoughts that they have, they are rootless thoughts, so they can have uh, in general what do you call kusala thoughts, skillful thoughts, or akusala thought, unskillful thoughts. They normally have rootless thoughts. So but people might say, oh, my cat understands me, my dog understands me, maybe he's doing good things, maybe he's doing bad things, because we kind of uh, judgmental about how they behave. But in the Buddhism they say, no, in general animals thoughts are rootless, but our thoughts are not rootless. Our thoughts are either skillful, good, or either bad. So what we need to understand here is the probability for an animal to be reborn as a human is like a one-eyed blind tortoise coming out of the ocean, and at the same time he or she comes out, there is one yolk that connects to his eye, her eye, which is visible, and the tortoise is going looking outside, you know, outside the ocean. So that probability is very rare. So that is the probability for an animal to be reborn as a human. Then how come animals can have a chance of being reborn as humans? Mostly the good karma they have done in their previous lives. We will be learning that in the few more pages ahead. So that's what it says here. So probability for a human to be reborn as a human, probability for an animal to be reborn as a human, there are two kinds. Any questions so far? I couldn't ask that at the beginning. Okay, I think it makes sense, right? Okay, let's go. Uh, and Naomi, would you mind reading this last sentence from 234 and then ahead?
Okay. If bhikkhus that fool after some long time regains the human state, it is into a low family that he is born, a family of outcasts, hunters, bamboo gatherers, carters, or refuse cleaners. Among such clans is he reborn. There he is poor, he finds little food with much difficulty. Their clothing is hard to come by. He is of bad color, ugly, deformed, sickly, blind, or crippled, and palsied. He gets no food, drink, clothing, vehicles, garlands, dwelling, bedding, or lights. There he misconducts himself by body, speech, and mind, and at the breakup of the body he rises after death in a lower birth, even in nirya. Such is the nature of the total and utter fool.
Okay. Looking at the pages that we have to study, maybe I might summarize a few more pages, and I'll get back to the ilaka. Otherwise, we won't have time to cover all that. Okay, so what I understand from what Naomi said, it was a part of the sentence of the previous page. So now, what does it mean? Okay, so it's about karma, right? If bhikkhus that fool after some long time regains the human state, it is into a low family. Or let's say if if a foolish person, uh, I would say in this context, someone who has done bad activities, bad speech, bad thoughts, then that person is more likely to be reborn as an animal in case she takes a chance of being reborn as a human. That human life may have challenges. What kind of challenges? Okay, so it's fundamentally the social issues, the work kind of work that they are gonna do, and then some fundamental issues like inadequate food, right? And then they won't have clothing, and they ask complexion and all that. So Buddha says that most of them, they are consequences of uh, you know uh, having done those bad activities, and as well as they just come from animal realm. So uh, we also know that because of what we see in other people, we should not insult anyone, uh, like even the humans who are having some challenges in their life, disabilities. We understand that we have to practice inclusion, equal opportunities. We have to accept them, but there may be reasons why they are so, but we are not bringing that part because that's kind of a spiritual part. But in society, we need to respect them. But uh, because Buddha talks about samsara, we may think this way too at some point without uh, you know uh, disrespecting such beings. Okay, so now I'm gonna summarize a little bit. You can see the paragraph. Thus, it's easy. Okay, now you understand that falling into an animal realm is very easy, right? The easiest thing is that if you don't have a right view, you're definitely going to be reborn as an animal or a peta or whoever. That's why Buddha requested many times, strive with diligence for what? He asks us to strive in diligence to understand Sotapanna, attain Sotapanna. So this is the minimum standard of every Buddhist. There are three things to overcome: Sakayadity, personality belief, I, me, myself, because we are always struggling with I, me. This is my car, this is my book, this is my education, this is my degree, this is my money, and this I, me, myself concept. We are always struggling and we are criticizing each other. We are getting irritated. But I said this is the first thing that we have to get over, but not conventionally. Conventionally, you may need to talk to other people. Yeah, I'm educated and I think other people should be so. And this is my mom, this is my father, this is my hard-earned money, but only on the conventional level. But ultimately, I understand there's no I, there's no me, there's no myself. Even we just leave our bodies one day when you die. So we understand the same phenomenon under two aspects. So the first thing that we need to overcome in order to attain Sotapanna, so that we are guaranteed that we are not reborn in an animal kingdom realm, is Sakayadity, Vicikiccha is doubts, and Siddhabhata Paramasa which means clinging to rites and rituals, even precepts. Okay, so it is easy to become an animal in our next life because if you don't practice right way, definitely that can happen. And also we know there are many animals than the humans we know, right? It's a clear cut thing, right? And the number of animals who are reborn as humans or devas is small, right? It's also clear. The number of beings in the animal realm is very great indeed. The number of ants or termites in a single mound is beyond count. So we know the number of animal is more than the humans and the devas. That's what we understand here. Now there are instances where why some specific beings became animals. If you can see here, a greedy-minded monk who cheated an arahant out of his meal suffered multiple lower rebirths, including 500 times as a dog who could never find enough food. Now, see, now the vipaka, the consequence of some bad karmas depend on uh, the person we are doing that bad thing to. Let's say you are doing a bad thing to a bad person. We are not supposed to do any bad thing to anyone. But in case you are mean to a bad person, and that is one instance. The second instance, if you are mean to a good person, so the consequence of the both acts are two different. If you are mean to a very good person who is very um, good in terms of spirituality, keeping the precepts, you will get immediate, repercussions, as well as that small bad thing you do to the good person can take you to be born as an animal, right? It depends on, who the person is. That's why the Buddha says the only sure way to escape from an animal birth is to become a sotapanna, which I mentioned a couple times, one who has attained the first stage of awakening. Okay, but there are some exceptions. Now, don't take it wrong. There are some exceptions. What about the royal elephant at that time? He is always regarded in a lot of comforts. Now, see this paragraph. Although an animal birth is in general one of the great sufferings, some animals, relatively few in number, enjoy a more pleasant existence. For example, a royal elephant that lives in the king's household and enjoys good food, lodging, and adornment, right? Or other elephants, dogs, horses, and cattle that live among humans are treated well. Looks like some beings who became animals, they are better treated. Maybe they have done small mistakes, but at the end they became animals, but they are still treated well because of those small mistakes. Some people may have done grave mistakes, not mistake, grave bad things, so that they will be experiencing full discomfort. This would include those animals we nowadays refer to as pets. Yeah, these cases are said to be the result of mixed karma, right? So that's what I said, that mistakes, right? So maybe why some pets are treated so good, maybe those comfortable pets may have done a mixed karma, maybe a bad and good. But those animals who experience excruciating pain, full suffering, uh, they may have done bad karma only. Okay, let's scroll down. Children, this is interesting. It should also be noted that powerful beings such as nagas and suparnas counted as tiracchāna. So nagas are not snakes. Nagas are kind of a different kind of beings. They are also part of animals. And suparnas, what do you call them? We call them suparnas, garudas, and uh, those beings who can fly, suparnas. They are also taken as beings in the tiracchāna world. Okay, go to the next page. Tilaka, would you mind reading 236
For sure.
in Buddhist cosmology?
The first paragraph?
In Buddhist cosmology.
Perfect. In Buddhist cosmology, being may be born in one or four ways. Womb-born, as for example humans and other mammals. Egg-born, as in the case of birds. Moisture-born, which is the way insects and worms are thought to arise as spontaneous birth of devas, and some other non-human beings who simply appear fully formed at their new birth. Animals can take any of the four kinds of birth. Maggots and other such small beings that live in filth are said to have moisture born. Some of the higher nagas and supannas are born spontaneously fully formed, like devas. The Anuguttara commentary mentions in passing that there are cases of animals giving birth to humans and vice versa, but without giving examples. We might cite Jataka 523, in which female deers eat some grass on which an ascetic has urinated, and by swallowing some of his semen gives birth to a human boy. Also, in the Buhuridatta Jataka, a Naga female takes a human prince as her lover and gives birth to 2 children, described as human, albeit with somewhat watery nature. Later in the same story, one of these children, a girl, marries a Naga king and gives birth to Naga children. Jataka 543.
Okay, so this is kind of a very mixed type of teaching. But basically in Buddhism, uh, we are told that we are born out of 4 kinds of forms of both birth. Now, for example, I would say here there are beings who are born out of egg-born beings called Andaja, and there are beings who are born out of a womb called Jalabuja. There are beings who are born from places where you can see moisture. We call them Sansetaja, like snakes and those creatures. And then there are beings who are born spontaneously, and devas, deities, and deities. Devas don't have a place to be reborn. So when a deva is born, there is no place. So they are kind of spontaneous. We don't know how to explain that, but normally it says that there are beings who are spontaneously born. When it comes to animals, I mean, if we take that source of birth into animals, what we could see, there are a lot of complexities. Let's see. Okay, so there are egg-born, as in the case of birds. There are moisture-born, like insects and worms, right? And you can see, maggots, right? Maggots and other such small beings that live in filth. They are moisture-born, right? It's clear too. Also, now as I said, nagas and suparnas. Nagas, those snakes, not the normal snake that we know. They are kind of a people in the animal realm. So those nagas and the suparnas, they are born just as the deva, spontaneously. They have no connection to eggs, womb, or moisture. And there is one place we understand. What is it called? There there were some animals giving birth to humans, and these are some exceptional places, and we don't either believe or we don't reject, but there are instances where we can see some places where animals gave birth to humans. Now there was one story in Jataka 523. In this Jataka we understand there was a female deer who gave birth to a human. Even the Bodhisattva Jataka story, there were examples that there were 2 children, who were born from a Naga, tiracchāna. So there are some those stories too, but basically we know animals can be reborn from eggs, womb, moisture, and also spontaneously, and those exceptions too, in very rare circumstances. And what about the food to animals? Now we know, compared with the food of a crocodile, the peacock, uh, that of a peacock is subtle. What about crocodiles? They eat even stone. They don't find them wild, but digest them. But peacocks eat snakes, scorpions, and such animals. But compared to the food of the peacock, the food of hyena is subtle. They eat horns and bones, abandoned, even trees, right? So in this way, the type of the food is, if you compare from one animal to the other animal, it could be solid or it could be subtle, right? Now, when it comes to a bird, what they eat is very subtle. So that's why we can see so much manifestations of life, within animals, right? Okay, we're gonna go to page number 237. Ovini, animal conscious. This is very interesting. Huh? animal consciousness?
Animal consciousness is called ahetuka, rootless. This term from the Abhidhamma is defined as follows. The word ahetuka means without roots and qualifies those types of consciousness that are devoid of the mental factors called hetu roots. These types do not contain any three of unwholesome roots: greed, hatred, and delusion, nor do they contain the three bright roots: non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion, which may be either wholesome or indeterminate. Since a root is a factor which helps to establish stability in sita, those siddhas who lack roots are weaker than those who possess them.
Okay, so after this paragraphs, we are taking our break. Let me introduce this paragraph. This is, I think, I like this paragraph, more than any other paragraph in here. The reason is this is the place where it talks about what thoughts animal have. Now, normally people, as I told you at the beginning, people misunderstand animals. They have skillful thoughts. They may have, when they are hunting, they may have unskillful thoughts. But in this reference, Anguttara Nikaya 4.21, it is clearly said that animals have ahetuka chitta, rootless chitta, which means they don't have either wholesome or unwholesome. So, like when it comes to humans, we have both wholesome, unwholesome. When we do a good thing, we have wholesome thoughts. Let's say when I'm kind to someone, when I'm compassionate to someone, I have skillful thoughts. Let's say if there is someone who is mean to other people, who is not kind, who is not practicing metta, who is not compassionate, at that point, that person develops unskillful thoughts, the bad one. So humans have these both, as well as the mixture of these both. But animals, even we sort of observe, note that, okay, see, this animal is so good to me, so kind to me. Maybe he is practicing kindness or something, or maybe he's hunting or she's hunting, and we might think that this animal is not good now. But that is challenging to understand. But in this reference, Buddha clearly says most of the time animals' thoughts are rootless, so they don't have either good ones and the bad ones. That's why we say being reborn as an animal is very dangerous, because you won't be able to practice good thoughts, good actions, good speech. So but there may be few exceptions, like we saw in addition to the source of birth before. There were regular ways of being born as animals, but there are some exceptions where some animals give birth to humans. But there are some exceptional instances, but they are not treated as a common thing. But commonly, most importantly, we understand that their thoughts are rootless. So they neither have skillful nor unskillful thoughts, but the rootless thoughts. Any questions so far? Ovini, Ovindu, Tilaka, Naomi? Okay, so let's take the break now for maybe 6 minutes. I'll come back. So it's going to be 3:21. Okay, so we are back. Yeah. Okay, so starting from the next paragraph, can Ovindu read the next paragraph? This
Yes,
means,
sure.
yeah,
This means in practice that an animal goes through life experiencing the results of previous karma and has little ability or opportunity to make fresh karma. This should be considered a matter of degrees. For example, considering the potential for negative karma, while a higher animal like an elephant is capable of some degree of trickery and deceit, this is not to be compared to the tangled level of corruption of which a human being is capable. Escape from this realm is generally possible only if a result of old karma made in a higher birth coming to a delayed fruition. There are, however, exceptions to this rule. It is said that when animals such as deer or birds hear the Dhamma talk, pay homage to the Sangha or Satya, they make skillful kusala karma when they know it or not. And when cows, dogs, biting flies, or lions and tigers harass the bhikkhu or deprive him of life, they make unskillful karma, whether they know it or not. An example of a humble animal escaping to a better rebirth is the frog who listened to the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha was teaching Dhamma to a fourfold assembly by the banks of.
I think, yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Ovindu, yeah, thank you. So this is interesting. Now we are coming to a certain, level of understanding about animals. Even though we talk about that their thoughts are void of wholesome and unwholesome categories, but there are some exceptions to this thing. But we will be getting into those at this point. Now, for instance, okay, now we know that there's only an escape from this animal realm for any animal by ways of you know by ways of a previous karma that an animal uh, may have done in a past life, not being as an animal. Because if their thoughts are devoid of you know skillful or unskillful categories, that means they may have done good karmas before they became animals. So that is the only escape, because we never believe that a dog is ever going to be a cat. A dog is ever going to be a dog. A lion is going to be ever going to be a lion. A snake is ever going to be a snake, because they may have had a lot of births back in their previous lives. That is one thing to consider. The second thing is there are some exceptional reasons, sorry, the stories where we see a bunch of deers or birds hear a Dhamma talk, like paying homage to the monks, maybe a pagoda, maybe presumably by circumambulating, doing kind of a walking, circumambulating the pagoda. Because of those kind of comments, they were able to be either reborn, in a deva world, like one of the six heavens. So there are some stories we can see, some rare opportunities. Also, now even we talk about that animals, they don't, what do you call, they don't have unskillful thoughts, but there is an exception to this. And here you can see when cows, dogs, biting flies, or lions and tigers harass a bhikkhu, monk or a nun, or deprive him of life, they make unskillful karma, whether they know it or not. This is kind of a crucial, kind of a very debating point. Like if someone doesn't know what they are doing, because karma is presumably to be an intentional thing, right? How come an animal is to do a bad thing? Animal doesn't know. how come it is being considered as an intentional thing which causes karma? But anyways, if a tiger or a lion or what kind of other animal are to harass a monk or a nun, uh, intentionally or unintentionally, they make unskillful karma. This is one reference. We don't see this many references like the same, but this reference says this can uh, impact animals negatively if they're going to do that. Because at the same time, Buddha says monks should not go to places where these animals are living. They have to be safe when they meditate, when they make a temple. So there's a rare opportunity for an animal to attack. Uh, but if someone is taking a risk, that's no good, right? So I don't think there are opportunities for this to happen. But in case this happens, that animal may, according to this reference, cause create bad karma. Okay, this is one example of an animal listen to the Dhamma, but it's a very rare opportunity, rare reference. Naomi, could you read that the Buddha was teaching?
The Buddha was teaching Dhamma to the fourfold assembly by the banks of a pond near the city of Kampa. At the moment, a frog emerged from the pond, thinking, "This is what is called Dhamma." Settling down at the back of the crowd, he grasped the sign of Dhamma in the sound of the Buddha's voice. Just then a certain shepherd came to listen to the Dhamma. Without seeing the frog, he planted his staff on the ground to lean on and crushed the body of the frog. With his mind gladdened by the sign of Dhamma, the frog died and was reborn in Tavatimsa,
Heaven.
Tavatimsa as a deva in a 12 yojana golden vimana, as if walking from a dream. Finding himself surrounded by a company of acharas, he wondered, "From whence did I come to this place?" Examining his previous life, he asked himself, "By what karma did I obtain this present state of enjoyment?" He saw no cause other than grasping the sign of Dhamma in the Buddha's voice.
Great. Okay, this is kind of a rare opportunity a frog had. You know, it is undoubtedly clear that animals don't understand the Dhamma, but animals have a chance. What is it? They may focus on the object of the Dhamma. Like for example, I would say sign. The proper word is sign. See in here, grasping the sign of the Dhamma, Dhamma Sanyaya Nimitta. Now, maybe there are some animals who could like the sign of the Dhamma. Not, they won't be able to understand it because their minds are not that developed to understand it, at least to a certain extent. But there may be an appearance of the sign of the Dhamma into the minds of animals. So in this case, it was a frog. So this frog was sort of like seeing the Buddha, maybe hearing the sound of the Buddha. At that time, there was, who was that? In here, yeah, there was somebody whose staff, was on the suddenly it was on the body of the frog, and frog died because at that time the frog was not listening to Dhamma. He grasps the sign of Dhamma, not listening to Dhamma, and then he was able to be reborn as a deva in the Tavatimsa heaven. So that's an interesting thing. And then this particular frog deva, looking back, and he saw what made me to be reborn as a deva who had a mansion, vimana called mansion, which is 12 yojana long, which is made of gold, and he saw it. He saw no course other than grasping the sign of the Dhamma in the Buddha's voice. So, which means we can wish animals, may you attend to the sign of the Dhamma, and that will help you to be reborn as a deva, or maybe as a human. That's one opportunity, but in this case, this frog was able to be reborn as a deva. Um, yeah, Dilaga, would you read the next another story?
For sure. Another story, which illustrates the same principle, concerns the 500 bhikkhus who were Sariputta's students and to whom he entrusted the Abhidhamma. Can I read the next part to Hamdani?
Yeah, the paragraph.
When the Buddhas taught the Devas in the Tavitasma daily for an entire rainy season, each afternoon he would return to earth and pass on the synopsis of the teaching to Sariputta. These became the 7 books of the Abhidhamma, and Sariputta first taught these to a select group of 500 bhikkhus, the bhikkhu disciples. They had all been small bats living in a cave at the time of Kassapa Buddha, as they hung from the ceiling of the cave. 2 bhikkhus were reciting the Abhidhamma out aloud as they did walking meditation. The bats grasped a sign in the sound of the bhikkhu's voice. They did not understand the meaning. These are the aggregates, these are the elements, etc. But simply by grasping the sign after death, they were reborn in a Deva's world. They remained enjoying the bliss of Deva's existence for the entire period between Buddhas and were then reborn as householders in the Savatthi during the time of Gautama Buddha.
Wonderful. Now, in this story, what we could see is that how the Abhidhamma was given by the Buddha. He went to the what do you call? He went to the Tavatinsa, and then the Buddha's mother came from Tusita to Tavatinsa to learn the Abhidhamma, and then every day the Buddha taught Abhidhamma. Every day he came out of the heaven to the human world near the Lake Anotapa, and then he explained that the Abhidhamma to the Arahant Sariputta. Okay, Sariputta and Arahant Sariputta. And Arahant Sariputta taught the Abhidhamma to another monks. Now we can see that these became the 7 books of the Abhidhamma, and Sariputta first taught these to a select group of 500 bhikkhus disciples. Now, this is about these 500 monks. These monks were bats, small bats at the time of the Buddha Kashyapa. How come they were able to become monks, humans? Because they were listening to, they were able to grasp the sign of the Abhidhamma, which were uttered by some monks who lived inside caves, because we know there are bats inside caves. So they don't know what the monks are chanting, but they can feel something better. So they were focusing on what they chanting, what they reciting inside the cave. So the small bats, they were focusing. Just because that they were focusing on that, they were able to become humans. They didn't know what they chanted. They just felt happy about the spirituality, maybe the way they chanted. Maybe they might feel that these beings don't harm us, because when some beings go to caves, they sort of like harass the beings inside. So they had positive, impressive thoughts about these monks who stayed in those caves. So small bats were grasping the sign of what they chanted and were able to become monks. Those are the monks who were taught by the Sariputta, Arhant Sariputta, this precious Abhidhamma. So that's another reference about animals could grasp the sign of the Dhamma, not the Dhamma, but sign of the Dhamma. Ovini, good karma was also made by.
Good karma was also made by elephant and the monkey who served the Buddha during the one rainy season. The Buddha had been staying in the monastery of near Kosambi, but the bhikkhus there had provided to be quarrelsome, so he left the dwell alone in the forest.
Okay, Avani, please stop, because this is a long story. I'm gonna summarize that, okay, and I will let you read the next. So, long story short, at one time when the Buddha was living in the temple called Goshitarama in the city called Kosambi, there was a dispute among monks. What was the dispute on? They were disputing on something about the washroom. I understand. Should we leave some water in the buckets or not? And there was a clash between monks, and some said yes, some said no, and Buddha could not settle, and Buddha left the temple. He left the temple to a forest. We call it Parileya forest. And when the Buddha left, the devotees stopped giving dana. They stopped offering dana. And then what happened when the Buddha went inside the forest, this particular forest? There was an elephant who isolated from his herd, and then approached the Buddha and started ministering, attending to the needs of the Buddha. Like he was helping him, he was protecting the Buddha from other animals. He was very kind to the Buddha. And then, in the meantime, there was one monkey who saw the elephant is treating the Buddha, and he grabbed a honeycomb and then gave it to the Buddha, but Buddha didn't eat it. And then the monkey was thinking, what's going on? And he saw the lava of the comb. Maybe this is why the Buddha didn't eat it. So he just took out of the lava part of the honeycomb and offered back to the Buddha, and Buddha ate it. The monkey was happy, and so he was elated, overjoyed, jumped from one branch to the other branch. And then what happened? He fell down. He fell down, and then he died. But the moment he was happy about offering the honeycomb to the Buddha, he was able to be reborn as a deva called Makkuta Deva. And you can see in here, I guess it's in page number 240. You can see in the second paragraph, the monkey was so happy. His name was Makkata Deva Putta, Monkey Deva, because he was able to offer this honeycomb. He was elated, overjoyed, and he was, jumping from one branch to the other branch of a tree, and he fell down. He died. But the moment he died, he was thinking about what a precious thing I could do with the Buddha. So this all happened when the Buddha was in the forest. And you know what happened after? The monks with the devotees came to escort the Buddha back to the temple. At that time, the Buddha told elephants, we call him Parilayaka elephant. He told the elephant, the elephant didn't like Buddha leaving the jungle, the forest. But the Buddha said, um, you know what, you can practice any meditation because you are an animal. So you stay in the jungle. I think there is a nice way of saying that. The Buddha spoke to him saying, Parilayaka. Ovini, can you read that part? It's page number 240. I think it's the third paragraph with the quotations. When the rain's retreat ended.
When the rain's retreat ended, a party of bhikkhus led by Ananda arrived to take the Buddha back. As they were leaving the forest, the elephant stood across the Buddha's path, not wishing to see him leave. The Buddha spoke to him, saying, Paliyaka, I am leaving now and I will not return. In this form of existence,
yeah, that's a Pali word, Attabhava.
Attabhava, you cannot practice jhana, one-pointed absorption or vipassana, nor attain the path of fruit. The abodes of the human are an obstacle of the danger for you. You must turn back. The elephant stood sobbing with his trunk in his mouth. As soon as he lost sight of the Buddha, he died of broken heart, and he was reborn in the 30 yojana golden Vimana in Tavatisma, attended by the 1,000 Attaras. There he was known as Paliyaka Deva Putta.
That's a bit difficult paragraph, which had a lot of Pali words. Don't worry about it. We got it. So what happened? The Buddha said to the elephant, "You can't practice meditation." So, and then he had to leave. The Buddha had to leave, and the elephant, putting his trunk in his mouth, and he lost the sight of the Buddha, and he was heartbroken, and he died, thinking that Buddha is leaving from me. And then he was reborn as a deva. Okay, and like just as the monkey. Okay, and then I'll go back to Ovindu. Can you read an example?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, you gotta read when Siddhartha left home.
When Siddhartha left home to seek Buddhahood, he rode his loyal horse Kantaka as far as the river Anoma. After his master left him, Kantaka also died of a broken heart and was immediately reborn in Tavatisma. An example of an animal making unskillful karma is the dog who had previously been a haughty Brahmin named Todeya. He had treated the Buddha with contempt, addressing him with the familiar bo as a deliberate insult. As a result, he was reborn as a dog in his own home, with his former son as his master. When the Buddha came by this house on his alms round, the dog barked at him and as a result was born in the Avicii Niraya. Beings cannot gain spiritual awakening in the animal form.
Yeah, that's okay for now. Okay, thank you. Okay, now there are another few examples. There was one example, the horse called Kantaka, the Prince Siddhartha was going on him with Channa, and then he died too. He was heartbroken. The Prince Siddhartha left the house, the mansion. So he was reborn in the Tavat. Children, do you get a sense of what's going to happen to many animals when they are doing something really great, especially spiritual thing? Their immediate place of heaven is Tavatinsa. So they all were able to be reborn as the devas, deities in the Tavatinsa, the specific heaven. That's one example, the Kantaka. The second example is on the negative side. You remember there was a Brahmin called Todeya, and he insulted the Buddha and he became an animal, dog. And even his son, I think his son name was, what was his name? I guess there was another name for him. So this son was inviting the Buddha to his home to offer some dana, but this dog had bark and then tried to stop him coming to the house. And then the Buddha recognized him. Buddha said, you did the same thing when you were alive, and now you are doing the same thing. And he was really upset about it. He knew that Buddha recognized him. And then he was so sad about what he learned from the Buddha. And then he died and he was reborn. On the negative side of that, that means reborn in the Avicii Niraya. That means the worst Niraya, hell in the Buddhism. Okay, now this is page number 241. Maybe I will summarize a little bit and then I will ask Naomi to read somewhere at the end so we can save time. So now if you can take a look at page number 241, you can see beings cannot gain spiritual awakening in the animal form, right? But there were two exceptional things. Either they have to die and reborn again, but being as animals, they are not able to advance their spirituality, okay? Like attain different levels of attainment, like Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arahant. This is what we saw with the advice the Buddha gave to elephant, Pali Layaka. And we know that even Naga, even Naga or Garuda, they can attain Sotapanna. That is one thing. And also plants. Now in Buddhism, we believe that trees and plants have one life, but there's no consciousness. So normally we say that normally the Buddha asked the monks, you should not cut down the trees. On one side, it is to protect the environment. On the other side, it is to respect the perceptions of the people at that time. In India, that time, they were practicing animism. Do you know animism? What does animism mean? Animism means they believed every phenomenon, every object has a life. Maybe they have a deity inside of water, wind, moon, sun, earth, trees. They believed every object that they see has a life. So that Buddha had to respect that. That's why Buddha said to the monks, you should not cut down the trees, but cut down the forest of your defilements instead. He was using that. You cut down the forest of your defilements, internal, mental defilements, kilesas, instead of cutting down the tree. So he said, and the trees, plants have one life, but no consciousness. Okay. And the other thing was why the Buddha said do not cut the trees is that there may be some what do you call some devas living in some trees. So you are sort of like uh, destroying their places of living. Okay, so this is what we can see in the plants thing. That is kind of an additional thing to this discussion. Okay, now we have come to the last, section of this discussion about animals. Naomi, could you read page number 242, Animals in the Jataka Tales?
100,000 kalpas ago, the ascetic Sumedha made an aspiration for Buddhahood in the presence of Dipankara Buddha and was duly recognized by him as a Bodhisattva, a being on the path to Buddhahood. The path of a Bodhisattva is long and arduous, encompassing many hundreds or thousands of lifetimes. Sumedha was eventually reborn as Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha of our present age. The Jatakas are a collection of stories recounting episodes in some of the previous lives of Gautama Buddha during his long career as Bodhisattva. The Jataka collection in the Theravada canon consists of 547 separate stories. Of these, more than a third of the total feature animals as prominent characters. The Bodhisattva himself was some kind of animal in 117 stories. The following table summarizes the various animal births of the Bodhisattva.
Great. Yeah. Now, if we take a look at the Jataka tales, how many of you have read Jataka stories of the Buddha? Or how many Jataka stories are there? You can see the number here. It's gonna be 547 stories. It's not 550, but Sri Lankan people say 550. Pansiya Panas Jataka Pota. But in his, normally we can see 547. 3 stories are missing here, but anyways, 547. In these stories, we have seen the Bodhisattva. The Gautama Buddha was reborn as animals in many places. So let's take a look at the table in the next page of how many animal births he had. Normally it says more than a third of total feature animals was the Buddha. Oh, see that. Page number 243. So this is animal, this is number of births. You can see hoofed mammals, carnivorous, miscellaneous mammals, birds, reptiles, and fish. Total all birds as animals was 117. So in 117 instances, the Bodhisattva was animal. Let's take a look at some of them. So he was 9 times a deer, 2 times an antelope, 4 times a horse, 4 times an ox, 1 time a buffalo, 20 hoof mammal rebirths, 1 time a dog, 10 times a lion, 2 times a jackal, 11 times a monkey, 7 times an elephant, 2 times a rat, 1 time a hare. And see other birds. So he has been reborn as birds in many species, like 53 species, right? Swan, goose, peacock, right? Vulture. What about reptiles? He was snake for 3 times, monitor lizard for 3 times, fish for 3 times, frog for 1 time. But you know what? In my understanding, the list is more than this. But this is what we know. if he had to practice a lot of perfections, we cannot say that there was only 547 stories that he had. This is if we take one story as one life, then how many births he might have had, right? He must have had. So I think they only took, whoever who created the Jataka stories, they created only the specific, special life stories of the Bodhisattva. So I believe that there were billions of, trillions of lives the Buddha had as being animals, as being other people. But just to narrate it in a spiritual, respectful way, they only made it up this way. Okay, children, any questions now? Because we have 8 more minutes.
Amadou, I have a question. I'm just trying to remember it. So give me
Yeah.
1 second. I'll just
Yeah,
try to remember
take your
it.
time. Others? So until Dilaka comes up with a question, I may want to summarize a little bit. So we talk about what is an animal in the Buddhist teachings, why people are reborn as animals, can they attain spiritual attainments, uh, can they be reborn as deva or human, and the probability for an animal to be born as a human, and the bodhisattva lives, you know, the the Buddha was an animal in the previous life. So all that, uh, you know, all that explain what is an animal life like. Yeah.
Amadou?
Yeah.
I remember the question I was gonna ask. It was, so let's say someone was born, and then after they passed away, let's say they were born again into the human world, like just like we talked about in general, could they go into the past or the future, or is it both?
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Okay, so if, let's say for example, someone passed away in the like the recurring time, like the timeline, right?
We're talking about humans, right?
Yeah, humans and animals in
Okay.
general.
Yeah. So what you trying to say is,
So if
like,
they
there's a
passed away
human who
and they
passed
were
away.
to be born in the human realm again,
Okay.
could they be born in like the past, like 20, if they died in 2077, could they be born in like 2015 in the next life, or does it always go into the future?
Oh, it's about the time,
Yeah.
right? Time and space. So
Yes.
in my understanding, I don't think they can be reborn in the past again. They will always be in the future from the moment where they die. And otherwise, there's gonna be a confusion about the karma too. So it's
Okay.
always, in the future from the moment that person dies.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was my quick question.
Mm-hmm. Ovini, was everything clear to you, all of you, today?
Yes.
Yes, Amadou.
Okay. Okay. So if there are no more questions, Naomi, you have a question?
After someone passes away, are they reborn like right after, or is there like a period of time in between their lives that they're like somewhere else?
Okay. As far as my reading, what I know is that the moment they die, there's no, even a split second of taking kind of a pause in being reborn. The moment someone dies, that's the moment that person is reborn somewhere else. But some people say, the Mahayana people say that no, there may be an intermediate state, but I would call it is the life that the person was reborn. But they call it sometimes, depending on the happiness of that life. Let's say somebody is reborn as a person in the Niraya, hell, maybe for a week. like what happened to Queen Mallika, right, for a week. They might say, no, that's not the regular rebirth that person had. After 7 days, that is the life. But that's not, regardless of that, once someone dies, the moment that person dies, the moment that person is reborn. There is no intermediate time that is being taken. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Welcome. Okay, so let's then recite the Chattamanoka Gatha and then wrap this up. Before that, thank you for participating. And Mike will be teaching back on January 3rd in the new year. He's getting back. He's getting better as well. Romano Jesu Sankemoni Bhagava Kata Kinchu Bhagavato Viriya Samangi Tang Sugatang Sang Nantamo Emi Viragamani Jamasoka Dhammasang Katamam Patikola Madhurani Suri Patantang Dhamma Vimamsa Natantamo Dinne maham pale maho chatusu sochisu purisa yogisu atteche pugala dhamma dasase sanghamima sara nattamopimi. Okay. Have a happy Christmas, happy New Year. I think we are seeing you after New Year, and please continue to take care of yourself. Still, things are not normal, right? Be safe. Have a good afternoon, a good evening too. Take care.
Thank you, Hamadurni.
Thank you.
Take care.